Hello, my name is Heather Fantasia, and I am going to read you my memoirs today, Musings from Venezia. My writings from a trip my husband and I took a few years back. Now, memories made all the more precious. Sitting in a modest bedroom with the French windows thrown open to let both the sun and the sounds of the bustling city pour in. Old world charm fills the room, with lovely painted furniture and several hung paintings that are slightly too modern. They are a reminder that I have not, in fact, gone back in time. Looking out over the city, I see the romantic scene before me. Stucco buildings, painted salmon pink, and faded brick facades, all with clay shingled rooftops. How could this place not inspire? It makes me yearn for a time with Victorian dresses and top-hatted gentlemen. Church bells sing in the distance, pleasantly jolting me from my meandering thoughts, demanding my attention. My musings are momentarily halted to admire the melody. Such a place awakens my pen, a pen which has long since been forgotten. Modern-day madness seems to make my pen drop away. More and more each hectic day, silently, until it is almost as if my pen is no longer needed at all, just a faded memory. But here, in this place, my pen is renewed, alive, and needed once more. As the afternoon drifts on, I sit quietly in a wicker chair in the little garden tucked just behind a large wrought iron gate. My mind drifts off once more, jumping lightly from one thought to another, as though a frog, skipping from one lily pad to the next, never lingering too long. My thoughts stretch from the rather exotic plant life surrounding me to the poets and storytellers who may have visited here and been inspired by the essence of this place. Canal after canal, old cobblestone streets, so many colors they seem to surround you. Sparks of life and love are everywhere. It's hard not to be odd here. My mind wanders once again, leaving the most pleasant scene of the garden before me, back to last evening. A light rain had begun to fall at dusk. The pitter-patter of raindrops on cobblestone and clay roofs made the most magical music. The slightest chill of early fall was in the air, but it was warm enough to be out. We walked about the city, which was quiet due to the rain. It felt like we had all of Venezia to ourselves. We stopped at a little cafe for dinner before gradually making our way back to the hotel. The rain had a comforting quality. I hope the memory of the rain that night will continue to uplift my soul when it is time to leave here. I hope my pen will remain by my side for years to come. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to my memoirs, and I hope you enjoyed them.
My friend's flag. Walpole Police Chief John Gabriel was off duty, driving home in his own car after work. It was a winter night, 10 below, and the wind was howling. Power lines were down somewhere, the streetlights were out, and the snow-covered houses were dark. As he turned onto Robbins, he saw someone walking on the side of the road. As he got closer, he could see it was a young man, not more than 20, in just a thin coat, shaking and wandering down the street. He would take a step and he would slide on the ice on his iron legs. Gabriel pulled up next to him and rolled down the window. "Are you good?" The man looked at him and said nothing. Gabriel told the man who he was. "Did I do something wrong, sir?" the man asked. "You did nothing wrong, but are you good? It's a cold night for a thin little coat." "It's all I got." "Tell me your name." "Mark. I think I'm lost. Where are you going? Gabriel asked. Let me think. Norwood. Is this Norwood? This is Walpole. Take you a long time to walk to Norwood, especially when you're going the wrong way. I got mixed up. I just want to sleep. Where in Norwood? Mark said he stayed at different places, but mostly at a homeless shelter. What are you doing out? My friend's flag. Your friend? Where does he live? He's dead. I kept waking up and I heard the wind outside my window. My friend, we put a flag on his grave. Sometimes flags fall. He's buried here? Yeah, he is. We were in the war. This wind, not his flag, not the first day. We buried him today. Did the flag fall? Yeah, it was down when I got there. In the wind, they all fall, but I stuck him in deep this time. His flag, all the flags. No way they'll fall now. All the flags in the cemetery? By yourself? Yeah, most of them. All that fall. You don't even have gloves. At least fasten up that coat. I tried. I can't feel my fingers. Let me give you a lift. Gabriel talked Mark into accepting a ride, and they drove off. The wind brought an oak tree crashing down on them. They spun into a ditch. Gabriel came to. How long had he been out? He looked at his watch. It's over an hour. Everything was in pieces. His phone was broken. Mark was quiet, still. He searched Mark, but there was no phone, no way to call for help. VFW post 5188 was on the other side of the street. Can you walk? Gabriel asked. Mark said nothing. Mark was so cold, he had stopped shaking. If they waited much longer, it would be too late. No, Gabriel thought, not in Walpole. This homeless vet with no legs isn't freezing to death in Walpole. Gabriel pulled Mark out and threw him over his shoulder. Gabriel took a few steps, but he felt sick. His ears rang, and he felt weak. His head hurt, and he saw 2 VFW buildings. He took a few steps, and the world went in circles around him. Gabriel fell, face down on the ground. He tried to get up, but he didn't have the strength. The short way to the VFW seemed far now. With Mark on his back, Gabriel crawled. With the last of his strength, Gabriel reached the door. He pounded on it and shouted for help. Finally, the door opened and an old man stuck his head out. What happened? A tree hit us. The old man said he would call for help. Get this boy inside and warm him up before he dies from cold, Gabriel said. Only the oldest members were at the VFW that night. Their days of youth and strength were behind them, but together they would try. All 6 old men formed a kind of honor guard and lifted Mark on their shoulders and carried him inside. Then they came back for Gabriel and helped him to his feet. Mark opened his eyes and tried to speak, but the words that came out no one could understand. His eyes closed again. He's like ice. We get him warm or he won't make it until they come. With no power at the vet's, it was cold. The vet named Billy left the room and returned with a large American flag. Gently, Billy wrapped Mark in it. Mark began to shake again. His face was a little less pale. Where am I? Mark asked. Walpole Vets, Billy said. How did I get here? Your car got hit by a tree. The American flag at my friend's grave, is it still up? It can't fall. Rescue arrived in the parking lot. Rescue's here, just take it easy. Did my friend's flag fall? Did I put it back up? Sure, kid. It fell, but you fixed it. You did everything for him. You can rest now. I wish. He trusted me. I just wanted both of us to come home alive, but I did, he didn't. Why did I make it back and he didn't? Mark closed his eyes and shook his head. I know, Billy said, putting his hand on Mark's shoulder. I know. Rescue came in. The chief, what's up? A tree hit us. Help him first. We're on it. We'll come back for you. Rescue gently lifted Mark, still wrapped in the flag, and took him out. The vet stood shoulder to shoulder outside and watched Rescue drive away. Gabriel thought to himself, that boy, that hero, after all he's been through, I didn't let him die alone from cold on my street, not in Walpole. Gabriel would go to the cemetery in the morning and make sure those flags were still up.
The following is a work of fiction written in the first-person female voice. A Story of Dawn in Nam by Dennis N. Ritchie. Even the medical tent was under fire. We had 6 guys strapped to stretchers ready to be airlifted as soon as the chopper came. Captain Ventura shouted, "Dawn, line them up for triage, worst to first." "Sir, yes, sir," I replied, although such military formality was more sarcasm than protocol. I was halfway through a 9-month tour in country. Captain Gregory Ventura, MD, was a draftee who thought his 4 years of pre-med and 6 years of medical school would have kept him out of the Army. Unfortunately, there was a war going on, and the Army needed doctors. Greetings came from Uncle Sam. I pointed to the 3 bundles of joy with the least life-threatening wounds: a bullet in the shoulder, a broken wrist, and a series of cuts and bruises. The most likely sons of bitches to go right back into the field. I nodded to 2 others that were lucky enough to be wounded so badly they would be sent home. At the end of the line was the infantryman, shot 4 times and blinded by a grenade blast. His bleeding was barely under control, and he seemed to me to be on the verge of going into shock. The chopper arrived, and we hustled the first 2 stretchers to the open bay. There were 3 of us nurses, and we never failed to impress the copter jockeys with our ability to hoist and lift 200-pound men like they were kiddies on a playground. The chopper pilot jumped from his cockpit. "Whoa there, people. I ain't got no room for 6 stretchers." "You can't leave them here," Ventura insisted. "I've already got 2 on board," the pilot argued. "We can stand 2 guys up if we have to," I offered. "We'll try," the pilot agreed. We fitted 2 standers and 3 stretchers inside the helicopter's belly. That left the most serious case with nowhere to put him. "I'll stay with him until another copter can get here," Ventura decided. "No, you're the doc," I countered. "They need you back at the base hospital. I'll stay with him." As the dust and wind swirled around us, I regretted my decision. A sense of dread overtook me when I looked into the soldier's anguished face. The blinded soldier's name tag read Charles Williamson, Spec First Class. He was swiveling his head from side to side and opening his mouth to speak, looking like a hungry bird looking for food. "It's okay, Williamson," I said to him, touching his cheek with my fingertips. "I'm Dawn, a nurse. We're going to have to wait for the next helicopter." "How long will that take?" He sounded desperate. "I don't know," and so I lied. "Not long." "I'm cold," he said, lying on the ground in a jungle, wrapped in a blanket. I was afraid he would go into shock, so I pressed my body against his, since I didn't have another blanket, as the only way to warm him up. "What do you go by? Charlie? Chuck?" I asked, and then I wrapped my arms around his shoulders, deciding to comfort him. "Charlie," he answered, shivering. I held him closer. "Am I going to die, Dawn?" "Oh, no, I insisted cheerfully. "I won't let you." Then I felt a pang in my gut, realizing I was promising something I couldn't deliver. "Where you from?" Charlie asked me. "Rhode Island," I told him. "No kiddin'?" he asked, looking out into space, as sightless people often do. "I'm from Connecticut, right next door." "We're practically neighbors." A moment later, he shook violently and groaned. "Some water, please," he croaked, turning to face me, but not seeing my face. Sure, I said to him as I fished my canteen from my backpack. I held it to his lips and cradled his head in my arms. He gulped, and it seemed like I was feeding a bottle to a baby. Thank you, Don. He nestled his head on my lap, and I reached for his hand to hold it. Try to get some sleep, Charlie. Charlie nodded his head, and I found myself stroking his face with the back of my hand, still holding him. The night wore on, and I fell asleep. There was no sign of a chopper, and Charlie's breathing became shallower. His body grew hotter in my arms. I feared he was slipping away. I also feared the VC were lurking in the bush, and I needed to pee. I let Charlie go and stepped a few feet away to drop my pants and whiz. I mused that my soldier boy couldn't see me peeing, but he could have heard it. Near daybreak, Charlie Williamson stirred and called my name. I'm right here, honey. All the brothers say the white GIs get more attention from the nurses than black GIs. I kissed his forehead with a wet smack. How's that for attention? I laughed. Dawn, I'm scared. He spoke in a frail voice. He looked so fragile. Then I held Charlie in my arms and spoke to him, as if they were the last words he might ever hear. I love you. The blinded, wounded 19-year-old draftee smiled and croaked, I love you too, Dawn, my angel. I continued to hold the man-child, rocking him slightly till he fell asleep. I dozed off and woke only a minute or two later, feeling his youthful spirit depart from his irreparably damaged body. I cried a tear and then reached into my backpack to find my pistol, making sure the magazine was loaded, and I sat the rest of the night guarding his corpse, waiting for the Viet Cong or the medical helicopter, whichever came first. When I returned to the world 7 months later, I wanted to write a letter to Charlie Williamson's parents in Greenwich, Connecticut. I never did. 25 years later, I found the teenage citizen soldier's name on the wall and kissed the polished marble. The end.
Connection. You think when the cord is cut that now there are two separate beings, a mother and a child, but you are wrong. Though your child's heart beats on its own, blood pumps without your assistance, lungs take in air independently, and limbs move at their own direction. Still, a child's pain stabs through you like a sword. Her pleasure becomes yours. Her sorrow makes you weep. His achievement lifts you higher. His failure brings you low. Her pride makes you beam. Her humiliation is felt acutely. Their joy inspires you to sing. Of necessity, you must put distance between, but you will never really let go. Never lose touch. Never detach. Though it has been cut, the cord remains present in a way that binds you together forever.
Stuck by Maxine Smith. Stuck on the day, the hour, the minute, the second you were gone. Can't move past, fixed in place. The day before I last saw your face. Tiptoeing past the day, baby steps out of the darkness, taking comfort in my daily life, still battling the strife. Living my life as you would want me to, remembering you every second, making progress with every stride, emerging on the other side. The memories of you keep me going. I see your sparkle, your light daily, in colors gold and blue, missing you, waiting to be unstuck.
Hope and Resilience by Janet S. Chitty. Hand in mine, we hug the path's edge to avoid spring mud. Your smile flashes, anticipating our destination, where we will discover the glistening, leftover ice sheets not yet melted. Spring takes the lead. Deep purple crocuses burst through brown, recently barren earth, resilient after winter's dearth. And birds sing, squirrels scamper. The sun shines a bit brighter, especially today. Renewal brings hope after a year too long has passed, although not forgotten. Scars remain, reminders of the brokenness But we begin mending the vessels of ourselves, ready to be filled with strength for the days ahead, ready. Hand in mind, we balance along the edge of the muddy path with determination, hope, and resilience, returning home to begin again.
Hi, my name is Adriana Torres, and today I'll be reading you The Little Green Seed by me. A little green seed deep in the ground, sitting in soil, making no sound. Absorbing the rain and many sun rays, it dreams of blooming in just a few days, to stretch out its arms, legs, and entire body, to see farms, bugs, and observe its property. But this little green seed can't take no more. Sitting in soil is such a bore. And with a pop, the seed grew a body. It could see slightly, but not broadly. It had 2 little leaves it used to see. It saw green glistening glass in the stump of a tree. And in 3 days, the little green seed turned into a flower. It opened its violet arms and felt so much power. But little did it know that there'd be others. So many sisters, so many brothers. That big violet flower was drowning in confusion. It couldn't own the world to its disillusion. It didn't own the sun, it didn't own the rain. It didn't feel like sharing, all it felt was pain. All the other flowers felt the same way, but deep down they thought that sharing's okay. So all the flowers greeted each other and said, "Hello sister, hello brother." They all joined hands and said together, "We do not own the sun, we do not own the rain. We do not own the earth, but we must keep it safe. We do not own the clouds, we do not own the sea, but all we shall be is one united family."
Hello, my name is Leah DeBoer, and I'm going to be reading you a poem I made up called The Turtle I Met. Down in a pond, a faraway pond, a new little friend once came along. The little friend was green, had teeth that gleamed, a sad, lonely turtle the little friend seemed. I wondered what was wrong while the birds sang their song. I asked the animals once they came along. The turtle moaned, he dragged his toes. "Oh, sad turtle, tell me your woes. I'm oh very sad and so very lonely. I don't know where I am. Will somebody show me? Where do you live?" I asked in a soft voice. The turtle replied, "I live somewhere moist. I remember some rocks around in my pond, and a wise old willow tree staring at me, full of grass as green as me. My home is where I want to be. Don't worry," I said, "we'll find your way to that pond. We'll start today." We wandered into a forest as dark as night. Look in the distance, oh what a sight. I think I see another pond. It has rocks and a willow tree, all the things you mentioned to me. I think we found it, your sweet little pond, the place you love, of which you're so fond. Can I come visit your home with you? Of course, said the turtle, I'd love to show you. And that is the story of how we met, and I'll never forget my new little turtle friend. Bye-bye!
I'm Madeline Smith, the author of the story of Daisy Greenbrook. Here it is. There once lived a girl named Daisy in the small town of Maisiewood. This young girl loved the outdoors. She liked plants the most. Every day after school, she'd run freely around in the big fields. The sun was high in the sky and the clouds were floating around. One day, a bogle named Mr. Bunchfella went to every place he could, building new successful factories. Daisy wouldn't have minded, but he was cutting down forests to make new room for factories. This went on for 2 years, and Daisy was getting frustrated. Black smoke filled the air. That is enough, Daisy cried. I can't stand it anymore. I have to do something about it. But what can I do? What could Daisy do, though? She was a 9-year-old girl who thought differently than Mr. Bunchfella, who was nearly 50. I can do one thing, but I'll have to go searching the town for the right place. So the next day, Daisy stepped out of the house in a bright yellow and pink jumpsuit, walked down the road and all through town. I've got it! I know just the right place. Daisy's idea was to find an abandoned factory and turn it into a beautiful garden. She cleared the area of weeds and anything plants couldn't use to survive. After that, she and her friends planted trees, flowers, and vegetables. Just a whole lot of greenery. This is beautiful, just beautiful, Daisy announced when it was finished. Years passed and Daisy grew older, but she stayed in the small town of Maisiewood. Year after year, friends and family would plant new plants in that garden. Every year, at least one new person would join in to help. When Daisy died, the townspeople buried Daisy in that very garden she made when she was very young. Her grave was special, the only one there, and it was surrounded by flowers. People come all around to visit her memorial. That's the end. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Angela Joji. I'm a third grade Elm Street student, and today I'm going to read my story, Eliza's Dream. Just like Eliza's sister, Rachel, Eliza had many dreams, but one made her grow up with it. In third grade, Eliza somehow managed to get Rachel's school book that Rachel wouldn't let Eliza read. All the books seemed pretty much about boring stuff until she found one that caught her eye. The book was just too interesting. She had to read. So she switched up her mind, and instead of trying to persuade her to let Eliza borrow the book, she would just read it now. Eliza opened the book, and there it was, the pictures and words she couldn't stop looking at. After reading a bit, she was ready to decide what she wanted to be when she was older, an astronomer. Eliza read more, and then Pluto wasn't a planet. Eliza thought maybe she could ask her cousin Tasha about it. Running downstairs where Eliza was Tasha was baking muffins. Eliza asked, "Why isn't Pluto a planet?" Tasha said in reply, "I'm not sure, but it is a dwarf planet. Do you want a muffin?" After Eliza ate the muffin, before she was about to search what a dwarf planet was, Rachel came down looking like something was wrong. She went right toward Eliza, asking, "Did you take my astronomy book?" Eliza had a suspicious smile, letting Rachel know she took the book. Too bad Eliza couldn't use Rachel's book again, but she could research with the computer from her school. The next day for science, Mr. Robert gave some exciting news. Well, for Eliza, they were going to learn about astronomy. Most kids didn't seem excited, and some just were never excited about learning about new things. Eliza predicted what they would learn first. Maybe they would learn about black holes or the sun. Mr. Roberts said they were going to learn about planets. Eliza knew she had to memorize the planets, so when she got home, memorizing each one backwards and forwards by order, Eliza was ready to tell Rachel the planets, saying she was learning astronomy in school. Rachel wasn't amazed, but she did say, "That's good. But you do know there's exoplanets and dwarf planets." Eliza needed to know what an exoplanet was, so she was ready to research. That's when she learned they were planets that are not in our solar system, which means there's more solar systems. Eliza thought it was going to be easy, because there's only a few solar systems, but her estimate was way off when she searched up how many solar systems there is. It's way too much for her to memorize. Eliza knew she could ask Rachel, who knew anything Eliza doesn't know. Rachel was baking cookies with Tasha, so it did take some time to get her attention. Till she got her attention, Eliza's mom, Dad, Eliza's Uncle James, and Aunt Jennifer came back from buying new furniture since they moved to a new house. Eliza ran to her mom asking, "Mama, what are all the exoplanets?" Eliza's mom said in reply, "There are so many plans I don't know much. Well, come upstairs. I'm going to set up your desk." The next day, when Eliza came in, Mr. Roberts said, "Does anybody know the 8 planets in our solar system?" Eliza's hand raised higher than ever, and as usual, Mr. Robert called on Eliza. He answered proudly. 9 months went by, and Eliza still loved astronomy. In 5th grade, Eliza went to the Museum of Astronomy to see each planet in our solar system, see a new universe. When 6th grade started, Eliza saw the night sky through a telescope for the first time. The 9 months turned into 9 years. She still loved astronomy and made sure no one could stop her from learning astronomy. The 9 years went by, and Eliza knew she was close to being her dream career, an astronomer. The whole time Eliza learned astronomy, she kept the quotes with her saying, "You have dreams, and no one can stop your dreams." From just a school book, Eliza had a big dream. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed my story.
Sometimes I Crave Significance by Sarah Vander Linden. There are dimensions in the air. If only I could hold them in the palm of my hand, and stroke them and scratch them into my flesh until I bleed, so I could outline their edges in my own blood and look at them when I feel lonely. Give me a pencil and a plane so that I may graph where I begin and where I end, and nail myself neatly to the squares and lie there for a while and think about my measurements. If I cry out, I would like to see the sound spin away from me in coiled strings, ebbing and flowing and stressing and relaxing, and I would breathe in and out with their soft pulse, and sing to their rhythm, and step to their beat, and draw out my life beneath their swaying throb. Reality slips about in glassy spheres that fall like grains of sand, tumbling in curvy, asymmetrical, asymptotic ways and dancing on the corner of my consciousness, darting back into the shadows when I reach out for it. If only I could call to it, and when it came I would embrace it, and I do not think I would let go.
Hi, my name is Greg Sugas, and I just graduated from Walpole High School, and I won 2nd place in the Walpole Writes competition for poetry in the high school category. And today I'm going to be reading my poem. It's called The Man That Bought You Chicken Nuggets. So let's start it. Okay. This is kind of long, so get comfy. The cigarette butts line the Mountain Dew at the bottom of the big gulp cup. You watch the gray specks of ash float in the green liquid. You wrinkle your nose when you smell the nasty smell Mama tries to kill with Febreze. You wonder why he smokes and why his fingers smell like garbage after he stands on the porch. You wonder why this man hasn't bought you chicken nuggets yet. He brings himself and his nasty cigarette smell inside. His keys jangle in the pocket of his sweatpants, and he looks for the one that unlocks his car. He asks you if you want to take a ride in the white van to McDonald's. He looks at you from the staircase with his devilish green eyes, pleading for an answer. You get in the white van and sit on the seat where his friends smoke their cigarettes and spill their coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. You watch him pull the keys from his pocket and put one of them into ignition. You listen to the fiery roar of the engine. He pulls the van out of the driveway, grabs the pack of Marlboro cigarettes in his pocket, and lights another one. He turns down the street and into the plaza where the McDonald's where your cousin worked is. He smiles at you with his gentle, killer eyes. The same eyes that stalk you and your mother when you get home from the mall. You wait for him to pull up to the black box where the voice comes from. You think the voice is the Wizard of Oz because he let you watch that movie yesterday. Sorry, one sec. You tell the black box that you want chicken. You tell the black box that you want 6 chicken nuggets with signature sauce. You see him give the lady his card with his gray, ashy fingers. You eat your chicken nuggets on the seat where his friends smoke their cigarettes, and he tells you he's going to Cumberland Farms for cigarettes and soda. He goes to the Cumberland Farms and buys a DVD that costs less than $10, a liter of Mountain Dew, and cigarettes. He gets into the car again. He puts the key into ignition again. He brings you home again. You eat your chicken nuggets at the glass table where he writes the letters for the bills. You lick the sauce from your fingers. You hear him unlock the door to the porch again. You smell the nasty smell again. You wrinkle your nose again. He comes inside again. He puts his big gulp cup on the counter and presses his cigarette butt into the sea of Mountain Dew at the bottom. You watch the butts try to float in the green liquid again. You wonder when you will get chicken nuggets again. Thank you guys for watching, and shout out to everyone else who submitted or won an award. Thank you so much.
My name is Najara Akole, and this is my poem, First Sight Perception. We are all books with our very own stories, our adventures and memories, our stressors and worries. You pluck me off the shelf, skimming my pages, fast, not reading all of my words, your expression being aghast. Shoving me back on the shelf with crumpled sheets you leave me, a broken cover at hand, leaving me unable to stand. Sauntering away fluidly, oblivious to what you have done. Little do you know, the pain has just begun. Your sticky fingers have tainted me, imprinting me endlessly. Little do you know, you have marked me relentlessly. I stroke my fingers over my skin gingerly, wondering if you are right. Am I really the problem? Because I'm questioning this fight. Your eyes circle once more, seeking for a defect. At least one reason to give a humbly fake reject. The daggers that you spew as you part your lips with the menacing eyes and a dip of the hips. What is it that makes you stare so hard and completely ignore that your looks leave me scarred? With the defeat sinking in, I can tang a tear. The salty water is dripping and my mind is unclear. No, I think to myself, this shouldn't be. I deserve better than what you have given me. We should feel darling in our body and comfortable in our skin, without having the judgment coming from within. Why can't you learn that judging is tactless, with your shallow opinions on that face you have practiced? All races, genders, and ethnicities, we will unite to be one, embracing our diversity, taking back what they have done. Like a Tauran butterfly, learning how to fly, flashing our radiant colors and soaring in the sky. The first step is never easy. No one said that it would be. But this is an era of taking power back and rising from the debris. The bias will keep sprouting and continuing to grow, thriving in the sun, giving a sly, taunting glow. Suspend its water, yank out its roots, block its sunshine, squishing its fruits. By supporting each other and staying strong, we can correct this bias and fix the wrong. Get off your knees, brush off the dust. Let's loop our hands and build our trust. My hand in yours, your hand in mine, together we will rise and draw a line. Learning from our past, the future awaits. We can change what's at reach and draw our own fates.
The title of this poem is Bullying, Be Gone. Beep! Notification of message. You're unpopular. Your grades and friends, those we'll have to monitor. Just agree with us. Come on, kid. In the future, you'll wish there were actions you undid. Come on, we'll stop it if you join our clique. It's been more than a week, but if acceptance and popularity are what you seek, please, oh please, come join our clique. We can all agree you're the strange one of these three. So let's go, show us what you got. Haha, loser. Ooh, there's your weak spot. Beep, notification of message. You're stupid. Just think, someone's day you could have ruined. Every person is like a snowflake, all unique. Different strengths, some are weak. We don't want to play with you. I bet you feel and think that way too. You never get anything right. Your answer, be correct it might. Embarrassing yourself in front of the class. Maybe that's why there are classes you just can't pass. Beep, notification and message. You're a disgrace. Your actions are something you can never replace. Events never show up on time. And you thought this was your prime. You're a mess always, jostled by a million nuances in school hallways. Kids breaking bones, shattering in the distance, destroying their purpose of existence. Bullying brings bitterness and keeps kids from caring. Sometimes people think we just aren't hearing. All because we have personal struggles. Life can be too much to juggle. Prevent the possible, break the chain. Every day does not have to be full of pain. And your impact can be big or small. Feelings are real, you are not a doll. It's all up to you. Do your part. It could just mean a change of heart.
Hello, my name is Isha Venkatesh, and I'll be reading my short story, Tinker. My thumbs twiddled with a pen as I repeatedly unscrewed the tip, removed the ink cartridge, and fished the spring out of the cap by prodding it with a pencil. After, I packed all the parts back into the pen and repeated the process. This was my way of entertaining myself as my teacher droned on about combining like terms. You have 2y plus 6x plus 2.5x on this side. Before we shift the x's to one side, we combine the terms. My teacher's monotonous way of talking had surprisingly given me an idea. Combining rang in my head. I pulled out a thin screwdriver. I unscrewed the cap and again took out the ink chamber. This time, I pressed the thin screwdriver into the barrel. Will, are you paying attention? I snapped out of my thoughts and back into my seat. Can you answer this? The teacher asked, holding up the whiteboard marker. Sure, I said, as I quickly scanned the board. X equals 5. Use zero product property and factor, then find x. The teacher held a quizzical look on her face. It was not the way she would have done it. The silence was uncomfortable as I felt my classmates stare. I checked over my answer, making sure it was correct. My teacher's expression slowly turned into a smile, realizing my method could be applied for various equations. I must say, I am very impressed. Just then, the pen squeezed out of my grip and fell onto the floor. The screwdriver was sticking out when the teacher absent-mindedly stepped on it. She tripped and fell. Her face turned bright pink. Will, come get your contraption, she said, furious beyond belief. I stood up from my desk, red in the face as I picked up the pen. Reed and McCoy were laughing their heads off. After what seemed like an eternity, a buzzing sound erupted from the loudspeaker. I packed my papers into a folder and stuffed it in my backpack. I walked down the hall to the courtyard where everyone was jammed next to each other, like sardines as a can. I felt someone softly tug my hoodie as I halted. I'm having a birthday party, but only people from this planet are invited, Absalom told me, uncomfortably, as if the words were being forced out of his mouth. I spotted Reed and McCoy watching from afar, with grins on their face. I walked off, not sparing them a second glance. I jogged through the courtyard to the OBF, or Old Blue Firehouse, where parents picked us up. It was a chaotic parking lot. In the center of the throng was the principal, who directed traffic. I waited and waited. The lot emptied out until it was only Absalom, Reed, and McCoy and me in the parking lot. A woman with short brown hair, pale blue eyes, and skinny jeans walked up to me. It was Absalom's mom. Hey, Will, sweetie, she said. Your mom's running late, so you'll come with us to Absalom's party. I nodded, but I wasn't looking forward to sitting in the back seat with Reed and McCoy. I climbed into the car, intentionally avoiding their gazes. Who invited weak Will? McCoy whispered. Yeah, it's a wonder how you survived PE, weak Will, Reed agreed. Absalom pretended to listen to music on his headphones. We used to be friends when we were younger, but something had changed as we got older. I was used to not being friends, but I hated that nickname. We went to an indoor rock climbing place for Absalom's party. I saw the other boys from our grade. Since he was the birthday boy, Absalom was first to step on a rock. He climbed the middle wall as I climbed the one next to him. Suddenly, the crowd gasped. Absalom had put all of his weight on a bright red rock under his foot. The screw was loose and the rock was shaken. The harness's material ripped since Absalom dug his fingers into the weapon. He was near the top, and everyone was biting their fingernails, scared out of their minds. I reached into my pocket and felt a pen. "What are we going to do?" someone asked. "Can someone come towards him?" Absalom's mom anxiously asked. One of the workers scanned the wall. "I don't think I could climb up. There's no free hook, and I don't want to shift the wall." I started to climb towards Absalom, careful not to touch any rocks near the unstable stone. I stuck out the screwdriver and started to tighten it. The rock slowly became secure, though the harness problem still lingered. "What do you have in your pockets?" I asked. "A few paper clips, a large magnet from science class, some chewing gum, and a pencil," he said. His hands were dripping with sweat. "Give me everything," I demanded. I stuck a bit of the chewed gum on my harness's belt. I used it like tape to attach the magnet. Next, I bent the paper clips and roped them together to make a chain. I took out my screwdriver to drill the pencil and make a small hole. I poked the paper clip through the hole and then wrapped it around. Lastly, I glued the harness with the extra gum. "Hold on to your harness and clutch this pencil," I instructed. The pencil kept him connected to the harness, just in case the gum gave in. He did as I told him to. On the count of 3, we descended to the ground. Reed and McCoy were the first to say anything to me after the escapade. "How did weak Will do that?" they asked. Absalom turned red, embarrassed he hadn't stood up for me before, but I had still saved him. "I think it's time we gave Will a different nickname," Absalom told them. "Yeah," McCoy agreed. "What about Tinker?" Reed suggested, and all of them smiled at me.
My name is Nirjara Akole, and this is my short story, Unreachable Stars. I swiftly opened my geometry textbook as I closed the lid of my computer. I had continuously been studying for 4 hours, and I still had a long night ahead of me. I rubbed my temples slowly and took off my glasses, resting my head on my desk. Letting out a sigh, I reached towards my phone. A well-deserved break. Leaning back on my chair, I slipped on my AirPods and slid my feet on top of my desk. Just as my fingers slid over the TikTok app, I heard my mother curtly open the door. Knocking had never been a habit of hers, and inviting herself into my bedroom was one of her favorite things to do. "Blake," she said, "what on earth are you doing?" Her jawline tightened and her eyes narrowed as she took in my position. I was basically sprawled across my desk in a leisure manner, leaning back on my chair. "I'm taking a break, Mom," I said quickly before I got another lecture. That was the last thing I needed after my night. "A break?" she said. "Yes, a break." The conversation needed to be over. "Close the door on your way out." She didn't budge. In fact, she was staring right at me with her icy blue eyes. "Blake, you're a junior. It's time to take your schoolwork seriously. Your father and I have been thinking." "Mom, no. Leave right now. I am studying. I am getting good grades, and I sure am attending Harvard next year." "Blake, honey, I want what's best for you." "A 93. You got a 93 on last week's geometry exam." "It was the highest grade in the class." "You can do better," she says, as she quietly closes the door and slips out of my room. Finally. I can hear the frustration in her voice, and for a moment I let guilt seep into me. "No," I think, "don't let her do this to you." I lay my head back down on my desk, trying to gather my thoughts. They had such unreasonably high expectations. It wasn't fair. How did I get so unlucky in the parental lottery? They were never pleased. Anything I did, anything I said, needed to be corrected. I had dedicated my whole life to being a perfect son, correcting what they viewed as my flaws, and painting myself to be someone I was clearly not. What could I do to prove my worth? This wasn't my home. My life was all a lie. A lie that I had built, a lie that I had fed. Being ambitious was part of my personality, but what had I become? A weak teenage boy that agreed to do everything his parents told him? I could still hear the hushed whispers coming from the other side of my door. They couldn't even talk about me in front of me. I ran my hands through my hair as I contemplated the situation, and I quickly realized that the options I had were very limited. I could either be a pretty perfect princess for my parents, or I could take matters into my own hands. My own hands. Wow, even thinking that felt different. I let out a small smile, until I was brought back to reality. The harsh reality that had slapped me in my face since day one. What did I have? I had nothing. A grandma's birthday money could only go so far. I let out a frustrated groan and clenched my fists. I waited for the anger to come, then the tears. But they didn't. In fact, I felt a spark of determination. I briskly got up from my chair and grabbed the duffel bag that was strewn across my bed. I began to fill it with a few pairs of clothing, my computer, and its charger. I added my wallet, water bottle, and AirPods. I zipped up the bag and threw it across my shoulder, picking up my backpack with my free hand. I gave my room a quick scan, taking in my belongings, my privileged belongings. What good did they do for me? They wouldn't let me breathe. They wouldn't let me be free. My decision felt right. I knew it was right. I broadened my shoulders and took a deep breath, trying to work up the nerve to open my bedroom door. I mentally counted down from 3. 3, 2, 1. I swung the door open, relieved by the fact that there weren't two overbearing people there to analyze my every move. With a swift look to the left, then the right, I scurried through the hallway and down the stairs. I stuffed my feet hastily into my shoes and opened the front door. The fresh air hit me, and I instantly felt relief. As soon as I was down my driveway, I adjusted the grip on my bags and began to run. And I ran and ran and ran until I couldn't breathe, until I felt free, and until I escaped all the judgment and the scrutiny. I called an Uber and waited for it to come. "Destination, sir?" the driver asked. I thought about it. I genuinely did. I contemplated my decision for the billionth time before saying, "Trenton, New Jersey." "Sir, that's over 4 hours away. Can you take me or not?" "For triple, I can, sir." I grabbed what was left of my birthday money and I threw it in the front seat a little more aggressively than I intended. "Thank you." I had fallen asleep, a rookie mistake. I rubbed my eyes and sat up in my seat. "Where are we?" "In Trenton, New Jersey, sir. I didn't want to wake you." I cautiously opened the door and gathered my bags. "Thank you," I said once again to the driver. I took in the view, I stared at the people, and I smelled the air. What had I done? What on earth had I done?
Hello, my name is Isha Venkatesh, and I'll be reading my short story, Ember. The holiday season is my favorite time of year. Is it because of the snow, the food, or the spirit? Everything contributes to the warmth of Christmas Eve. Christmas is also Grandpa Ira's favorite holiday. In fact, the reason I love December so much is because of him. We'd bake cookies, go Christmas shopping, and sled. My favorite activity is sledding with Grandpa. When I was younger, he'd sit in front and I would hug him as we dashed down a hill. Even as it got harder for him to sled, he'd still trek through the snow to watch me fly with the toboggan. I was thinking about that when the bell rang. School was over, at least for 2 weeks. Students rushed down the halls, their happiness apparent. I scanned the hallway looking for Aiden. "Hey, Aid," I said as I fist bumped him. "Owen, guess what? Miss Lewis lectured us about reading during vacay," Aid complained. I let out a chuckle. Aid with his stories of Miss Lewis and the massive homework load. We climbed the bus steps and walked to the back. The back is the best part of the bus. For one thing, the bus driver isn't watching your every move. You're also on the wheel, so it's like being on a roller coaster, especially with a rowdy driver. We played finger chess and standoff, or James Bond, till my stop came. "See ya," I called as I got up from my seat. "Merry Christmas," Aiden waved. I ran down the bus steps to see a special person. "Grandpa Ira," I yelled as I ran into his arms for a hug. "Owen," Grandpa said, wrapping his arms around me, "I've missed you. Want to go sledding down Jackdaw Hill?" "Sure. You got Ember?" I asked. Grandpa pulled out a sled. Ember was a classic wooden toboggan with an elegant curve at the front. It was painted a rich shade of sepia brown. It also had a unique Carmen sparkling center. Ember was part of Grandpa. In 1945, towards the end of World War, tragedy hit Gramps. He was 7 when men stomped into his house. That night, their Jewish friends were over. Men threatened Grandpa to hand over their friends, or their house would be burned to the ground. They refused, so the men lit matches to the ground. As the flames were about to engulf Grandpa, a farm dog saved him. While escaping, a smoky log piece chipped off and hit the farm dog's fur. Though in pain, the dog continued pulling Grandpa's shirt until they were safely in the forest behind them. Grandpa named the dog Ember because he'd been the glowing coal in the terrible fire. Ember became Grandpa's best friend. One day, they were chopping down a maple tree to craft a sled. They skinned and smoothed the wood. Ember had felt sick. After some time, Grandpa checked on Ember. He'd fallen into the deepest sleep possible. Grandpa said it was one of the saddest days of his life. While overcoming his grief, he continued to work on the sled. When the sled was finished, he christened it Ember, in honor of the dog who had saved his life. After we went sledding, we bought hot cocoa at a cafe. "Owen, there's something I want to discuss with you," said Grandpa in a grave voice. I gave him an inquiring look. "I'm moving to Wales." My heart stopped and my face froze. "Why?" I whispered in a quavering voice. I always thought Grandpa and I would be a team forever. "Well, as you know, our family is from Wales. Your great aunt is struggling with Alzheimer's. I'm helping her out." It felt like a nightmare, which I couldn't wake up from. Surely someone else can help her out. As soon as I said it, I know I shouldn't have. "To be honest," he said, bearing a sorry look, "there are people who've offered. When I was a child, alone except for Ember, my aunt left Wales so she could take care of me. It's the least I could do." I knew Grandpa needed to do this, but I could sense hot tears beginning to streak down my face. I ran out of the cafe, attempting to run away from my problems. It was Christmas Eve, and I didn't feel merry. Relatives started arriving around 6 o'clock. I mostly camped out behind the couch. It's a convenient wide nook. I can hear snippets of conversation, and it's hidden from view. A lot of relatives were wishing Grandpa safe travels. I knew Grandpa felt bad about earlier, but I wasn't ready to come out of my safe space. Around 10, Mom called me and my cousins to bed. It took me hours to fall asleep. I tried warm milk, reading, and even lowering the temperature. When I finally went to sleep, I woke up at 5 o'clock. The house was dead quiet. I tiptoed down the stairs. Then I crawled to Grandpa's room. Talking to him was the only way I would ever fall asleep. That's when it hit me. He was gone. His flight was at midnight. I had missed the chance to hug him tight. I was filled with regret. I spotted a rectangular package twinkle under the tree. In familiar handwriting, "Owen" was written on the tag. I ripped off the blue paper. I gasped when I saw what it was. It was Ember. A note was stuck to the ruby center. "Owen, don't think this is the end of our adventures. I'll come back, and even if I don't, Ember will always be here. Anytime you miss me, take Ember out for a spin. No, I'll be watching you. Realize that the hands that crafted that sled are the hands that hug you." I read the note over and over. I understood what needed to be done. I bolted out the door and ran down the porch steps to dive into the snow with Ember beneath me.